Maybe. So, is there sound? Oh, we're getting it out of the way early. It's all good. Better to notice it now than like halfway through the video.
Okay, so
Be good.
there is sound, but it's pretty low.
Pretty low? Okay. Alright, Pap and Ho Hum. Thank you, thank you. Let me know when it's all good. And the soundisms are all nice and good. Ooh. Okay. So many things to fix. It's been so long.
This is all because your computer
Died.
exploded.
Well, almost. Yeah. How are you guys
This
doing?
is this is a bit of a prototype run through.
Yeah, it's our second, well, my second go, and then what? And then an overall. What? What color should I make the text? Okay, Silly's level's good. That's good. However, Train, want to say something? See if your sound's good.
Hello, everybody. Hope everyone's having a good night.
Oh, that's nice. And then Booker, you want to give it a try?
Yeah, how's it going?
Okay,
Is my voice being heard?
sweet. All right.
Good thing.
Well, we'll just ignore the first few minutes. I'll edit that out after. But so we literally just got finished watching this movie. They just left my house, so that's why we're running a little late. But that should be good because that means the juices are all nice and fresh, right? We just
Mhm.
finished seeing it. I just finished seeing it for the second time. Then Train and Booker just saw it for the first time, so they'll have some different perspective than I will. And we're gonna give our over generic viewpoint of the film first. No spoilers, so if you end up thinking, "Oh, that sounds interesting," and wanting to watch it, feel free to leave and then watch it because it is, in my opinion, a pretty solid film that even if you aren't necessarily into historical pieces, I think has a lot of merit and something that you could enjoy. Um, so yeah, let's start off with Booker. Your overall mm, give like 1 to 3 minute little snip of what you think.
So, without giving any spoilers, I think that this movie is, well, I would start off by saying I enjoyed it and continue by saying that I likened it to The Imitation Game shortly after watching it. It just reminded me very much of that, the very condensed, character driven story, which I really enjoyed those types of stories. Um, the action is all pretty much cerebral and character driven action, and a lot of the tension in the movie comes from those character interactions. So if you like character driven stories, this is a really good one. And more to the point, there's not a single bad actor in this movie. There's it's littered with really good ones. Names like Natalie Dormer from Game of Thrones, Mel Gibson, Sean Penn, really big names, and they did a fantastic job. And it is the only thing I would recommend is maybe watching it with subtitles if you can't get through the accents as easily. And I would also suggest subtitles because the words are very important in this story, and the words are used very precisely. So I would encourage you to maybe watch it with captions or subtitles if you do watch it.
Yeah, I think
But
that's a
overall,
good point. Yeah.
yeah. But overall, just a really enjoyable movie from my perspective, fraught with a lot of emotion and pain, but also a lot of beauty and love and things that are uplifting. So there's a lot to be taken from this movie. It's very dense.
Oh, it is dense. I don't know if we're gonna get through it in time, so we might have to do a part two. But off, I just immediately want to say, I think a lot of the beauty in this film is found through the pain. Like it's not one or the other. It's like moments of beauty, moments of pain. The beauty is slowly squeezed out of that pain rag, like dripped. And then you see the pain
Yes.
and the beauty from that. I don't know. It's not 100% perfect. I think it could have maybe used some cutting down, at least in my opinion, towards the end. But it is a historical piece, so it kind of has, different objectives that it's trying to hit in terms of, like, it's not a traditional blockbuster film that most people are expecting. It's trying to document things in a different way than like a normal film would. So anyway, I think well said, and we'll get more into it for now. How about you, Train? What are your thoughts coming fresh out of the box?
So right after the movie, my initial thought was that I also really enjoyed it. Um, I was more focused on the aspects of the movie that dealt with mental illness, and we'll get more into that when uh when we're talking spoilers. But I thought I thought also that the acting was really good, and one thing of note is that I had no clue who any of the actors were, and usually I'm pretty good with like being able to see through a character and tell like what actor that is. But this story was just so good, and like Booker said, so character driven that I felt really immersed in the time and the story.
Cool. So overall, thumbs up, two thumbs up,
Overall, yeah, 2 thumbs up.
two thumbs up. Wow. Okay. I guess I'll give my 2 cents. But quick, just want to say hi ho hum, hi Pap, hey JV, thanks for stopping in. And always nice seeing you in chat. I know I'm competing with Think EFAP's live right now, so I stand no chance, but that is okay. I like having a little small community here. We could chat about it. And Hoham said they have seen the film, so feel free to pop in your comments and what you think, because the more the merrier in this regard. I think for me, seeing it a second time, I can confirm it is a movie that I would recommend. Before I was kind of on the fence in regards to it's very unique, I think, in terms of the broad amounts of different flavors of soup of movies. That makes no sense. That you can go enjoy. Like there's so many other things you could be watching, and it's just a little bit not different, just a little bit different. So I'm worried to recommend it because it's like a riskier recommendation, and I also think it kind of has a little bit slower of a beginning that risks losing people's interest. If they're used to that, let's jump in with an immediate action scene kind of thing. But I think it was worth the slow build, and yeah, I would recommend it. It is a solid film. The acting is something that just deserves more attention here. It was through and through just so beautiful. I cried once, I'm gonna admit it. I cried. Okay, a little tear came out.
Okay.
Um, but I want to just jump into spoilers now already because I got works and not much time to make all the comments that I wish to say. But speaking of the intro, the way it went about the introduction, I thought was interesting. Because as Booker and Train haven't watched this before, maybe you could speak more on this. It starts off with, for a while, I'd say the first third, going back and forth between, quote unquote, the professor and quote unquote, the madman, right? We're kind of getting two completely different stories at the same time that it isn't clear how they're going to overlap until probably about like maybe a third or the halfway point when it starts to commingle. So since it was the first time for you guys viewing it, how did that feel? Were you like, what the fuck? How, like, why is this? What's going on?
I actually kind of like those formats for movies. I think it allows the viewer to take a step back and take inventory of what's going on. It's not like constantly new thing. It's
To add to that,
you're dealing with one story, and then you can take a break and you can move to another part of the story, and then eventually, they come together.
which gives the stories and the characters themselves a lot of time to breathe, which if it's not the type of movie you're trying to walk into, this is a movie you should walk into and be ready to turn your brain on and your
Mm,
heart.
yeah.
This isn't a movie that you can just like walk into expecting to turn your brain off and explosions and stuff. That's not what it's about. But I will say that the movie does also start. The only action scenes in the movie are near the start of the movie, which I think is kind of a way to pull you in. And in my case, it did pull me in. This might seem like a weird comment, but I was impressed with how realistic their chase scene through the streets looked.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
when you think about filming, this is kind of cinematography stuff, but when you think about filming somebody actually sprinting at like full tilt, it, it's kind of hard to do. Usually on film, that you kind of have to slow it down, but they really made it seem like they were just going as fast as they can. So I was impressed with that cinematography, and it really makes you feel like you're a part of the chase.
Well, yeah,
You
also,
know,
we don't know what's going on. So we kind of hop in with this courtroom, scene. We're getting context slowly. It's being fed to us, not all in like one big dump. And we were then also being paralleled with this court dramatic moment, and then, shifting to actually seeing this play out with what happened, you know. And I enjoyed that aspect throughout the film, how aspects of the character, with like the branding too, which we could get to later on, it's kind of hinted at with what this PTSD, like this insane status is, it's slowly dripped to us instead of a big like, hey, here it all is right up front. This is what you're gonna get. So yeah, and Ho-Hum said the separation between the characters drew them in, so I think it was played well in that regard.
something that coincides really beautifully, I think, is that they could have started the movie by showing the flashbacks of Dr. Miner in the war and his hard times, and they could have set it up that way. But I really like the way they did it because they don't show you that until later. So kind of
Yeah.
like the characters in the story, they allow you to prejudge him basically without having seen
Yes.
his trauma.
Because that's like a
And the
huge
characters,
thematic. I'm gonna cut in because that's a huge thematic point here. Is this
yeah,
entire one of the major themes is like who has the right to judge and condemn, these characters, and that's, there's characters here that are very quick to judge this murderous man, and then, there's also God in this whole thing. But by drip feeding us and showing us slowly as the audience, now we can slowly get to know the quote unquote madman, right, as a person before we just get dumped with all of the things that they've done wrong, and maybe gives us more sympathy and empathy for them. So that was like, I think, a deliberate choice and a very smart one to get that theme across.
And
yeah,
I also think that that particular scene with the war flashbacks when that guy got like stuck under the gate, that was like such a beautifully done representation of whatever that illness is that he has. I just thought that
Well,
I
if you
lost
want, we
my
can try
thought.
to work our way. That's okay. We can try to work our way there. So, like, for some context, right? We have this scene here where we have. Do we actually? You guys help me remember the name, because I'm just gonna keep calling him the Madman, and I don't think that's correct.
Dr. Miner.
Doc,
Minor, yeah.
Dr. Miner, because I know there's Dr. Murray as well, and I keep getting them confused.
Yeah, Dr. Miner is Sean Penn's character,
Okay,
who
okay.
is supposedly the Madman.
Okay, so Dr. Miner, right? So we see Dr. Miner chasing a fellow down the alleyways with a gun, shoots him successfully, and then he's still running, I'm guessing based off of just adrenaline. And this man finally makes it to a door, like, and it's who opens up is his wife. He makes it, but Dr. Miner shoots right there, execution style, pretty much. And, we can kind of tell he's going through some kind of PTSD, something. Like, something's not quite right. And, the wife is crying in agony at the sight that just is in front of her. It's very distressing. Not, it's this is a pretty emotionally heavy movie in that regard. It doesn't, it kind of reminds me a bit of the perspective conversation I just finished having with Andor and Arcane, because it has, I would say, like, background characters here. Like, let's just say I can't remember her name, but the wife's daughter. I don't know the young girl's name. Claire, I think her name. Yeah, Claire. So she's on screen here, right? And she witnesses this. We don't get much of her. Her screen time total is probably like 2 minutes. But we get her perspective of seeing. It has a lot of little beats from, like, the guard's point of view, and then I'm trying to think what other kind of point of views we get. Even though they're not big ones, there's tiny little people in there that get a chance to shine.
We get the views of, like you said, the head guard
Mm-hmm.
from the asylum, and also one that we saw a lot was he was like one of the higher academics of Oxford.
That's right. But yeah, so that's how it starts off, and then we go back to the court. The court, and they condemn him as insane. So instead of getting him sentenced to probably either death or jail, I'm not really sure what it would be during this time. This is very important. Very important. I don't think we disclosed this. This is based off of true story. This is based off of things that have occurred in real life. They show at the very end, the picture of Dr. Miner, and they also show in the beginning, like, the little timestamp of, like, 1872, I think it was, that this happened. And they have the little text at the end too, like where everybody ended up being. So that is important context coming into this. I don't even think you need to know the context that it's about the Oxford Dictionary being made, because I feel like if you tell someone, hey, this movie is about the Oxford Dictionary and how it was made, that might just be like, that's not my cup of tea. I feel like that was almost the backstory to what was actually happening here.
Yeah.
It was, I guess it's debatable whether that was like the B plot or the A plot.
Mm-hmm.
It was, yeah, that was I guess, the spine of the story, if you will.
It's what
Well,
brought them together. Go ahead.
everything was just so well interwoven together that didn't really seem like there was an A plot or B plot. More so, it's just
It's
all
true.
progressing the same story.
Yeah. I'm just curious in terms of, like, if you were to have to give someone that one sentence, here's what the movie is. I think if you look it up on Google, I'm actually kind of curious what it would say it is about, because I sincerely don't think I would really prioritize the fact that it's about the dictionary. I think I'd more talk about maybe just the relationship, or just that is so complicated. I mean, yeah, but it undermines truly how much is going on in this film if you were just to use the words, oh, it's a movie about, it's a timepiece about how the Oxford Dictionary was made. It's like, oh, well, I'm going to
That
pass.
the story of the dictionary being made is kind of, I see it kind of like the icing on the cake. And the cake itself is really everything else. And the way, the intentions behind making the dictionary, the way that they're described by Dr. Murray, Mel Gibson's character, and the way that Dr. Miner kind of breathes in that work, it's a lot more than just putting words on a paper and selling them, which is something that some of the scholars at Oxford don't really seem to get. Like, they're just trying to, they're focused on selling something and the fame that comes from it, but they're not really they're not focused on everything that Dr. Murray is focused on, which is,
Yeah.
you know, everything else basically.
But I do want to respond quickly to Ho Hum saying it's really loosely based on it. From the research I've done, Ho Hum, I've actually seen that it's pretty close to historically accurate. Stuff like the treatment that Dr. Miner goes through, because that was documented and it's pretty sad. And major spoiler here, one of the biggest, I think, emotional moments is like Dr. Miner cuts off his penis, which is quite distressing. That also actually happened. Like, there's a lot of things here that did happen. I think the only things, I mean, like from my reading too, like he did have stuff to paint because he all of these things. I mean, I don't know in what regards. Like, it's interesting discussion to have. Like, well, if you're gonna make a movie about something historical, how much do you have to make stuff up and tie in things to make it make narrative sense? But from the things I've come across, it seems to be pretty well correlated, which makes it, I think, a bit sadder because I don't know. It was hard sometimes for me to click back to, oh, this is not just purely fictional. This is something that someone lived through, and as at the very end with Winston Churchill, right? Like how we go about getting him out. That's true as well. So I mean, it's pretty cool. But I get what you're saying. Like these movies aren't completely apportionate to everything. But anyway, all right. So that's what we got. Our first scene. Our first scene. And at this point, it's cuts back to the jury. Like, okay, you're insane. And then there was I want to comment on this beautiful transition. There was the anger of the jury. They were super mad that he got declared insane. And it's like stomping and like arguing. And then it super smoothly transitions into our professor, which is named whom?
James Murray at this point, not Dr. Murray yet.
James Murray. That's right. That's right. Thank you. So, just very smooth. It just goes from the chaos of the courtroom to the chaos of a little friendly game. I don't even know what they're playing exactly, but the sound design was smooth and I liked it. I just wanted to point it out.
Yeah, I specifically wrote down that the cinematography was good, not only during that running scene at the start, but also during that scene when they're playing sports, because it just, I know there's a part where maybe it's right away, but it kind of brings you straight down to the level of, I think, somebody that's on the ground. And, you really feel like you're in the game. Like, yeah, right there. And it's almost a shame that there's not more action in this movie, not because it needed it, but because they filmed it so well.
I see what you mean.
But yeah, it's just really good. And just for a little scene like this.
So it was at this point that I think I wrote down in my notebook that we had to turn on subtitles because maybe it's just because we don't have these accents, but it was a little bit hard to understand. And they did this on purpose, I'm sure. But the way, as Booker was saying, the way they speak is so deliberate. Each word that is in this script is chosen with such precision. I don't think there's any waste at all. And it was funny because without the subtitles on, I think I was like, uh-oh, I couldn't really understand. And I'm gonna be honest, I got a tiny brain. Some of these vocab words I did not know.
Oh my god. Imagine if we kept the subtitles off for like even like 10 minutes after this point. We would be so
Yeah, it helped a lot.
I thought I was gonna be the one to be like that guy who's, oh, can we please turn on subtitles? But it was a good choice. It was legitimately a good choice.
It was.
Especially because there's multiple accents at play.
Mm-hmm.
I personally didn't really have trouble with the accents, but like the vocabulary that, especially like the Oxford people use, is just so out there.
Yes. So
yes.
We were three goobers who thought the captions were a good idea. We get an introduction of, I'd say, again, I'm really bad with names. I should probably do this before I'm like write down names. But his wife, the professor's wife, which is
Ada?
that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's right.
Oh yeah, I think Sean Penn, his acting, because I guess because of the mannerisms in which she was performing, was hard to understand. But yeah, Ada, we get a first look at Ada as well, and I guess the first true connection in the sense of like how Madman and the professor are going to overlap is with this newspaper. You know, she's like, I wouldn't know what to do if I lost you like that, you know, and the professor just goes back to the game, not really giving it much thought, but that's just kind of how that scene goes. We get our first
Yeah,
little taste of their characters and their dynamic as well. Their dynamic is interesting. We could probably talk about that for a bit. They even have a some line I think throughout the film, like you are the what you're the the silly and I'm the cold, something like that. I can't remember quite. Bridget of Doom, hey, welcome. We're just chilling, going over a pretty good film that I would recommend. We'd all
For stopping
recommend.
by.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by. But so let's get past this little scene. We get some beautiful shots, and we get to meet. Ooh, oh, Booker has some opinions about some of these fellows. Let me tell you.
I do.
So is this the fellow that you're not fond of? I can't remember quite which one
Is
it
he the
was.
blonde guy?
No, let me get to him. Let me see if I can find him. So we see here quick is Dr. Not Doctor yet. My bad. He's quite not. That's the whole point of the scene. He's trying to help. He's like, "Hey, let me come help you guys. This is my lifelong dream. This is something that means more than." Well, actually, he probably could put it into words. That's the thing. He
That's
describes.
exactly the point, is that he's trying to put it into
He's putting it into words, but he doesn't have a degree. And, you know, these Oxford people are like, well, you know, that ain't very good. We're very high society. They're like academics. So, but then he goes on and on. It's kind of like very humble. It felt good as a viewer. I liked it. I like when the underdog gets a chance to brag a little bit. Brag like all of the languages he knows. He's like, oh, I just casually know Latin, all of these, all of these. Like, he just listed like 20 different languages. So that was, I don't know. How'd you guys feel seeing that?
I love that he lists all the different languages he knows, and then towards the end he starts to kind of expound on the details, and he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry."
Yeah, yeah. He's like,
It's
oh,
just
apologies.
yeah, it makes it clear that it's stuff that he's really passionate about, where
hmm
he kind of has to rein himself back in. And although he doesn't have the degree and formal experience that they might look for, I think he makes his pedigree kind of clear with that with that little humble demonstration of his knowledge, his skills. So I really enjoyed
It's our first introduction too to his, I think, true mannerisms of speaking in front of these people, and then also the kind of the stuck upness and the prestige of this form, right? Like truly what they're trying to accomplish. And also, we get our introduction of the idea of making the dictionary, like what's going to be driving a lot of the plot going forward. So I'm trying to find. Is it this guy here? If you look at the stream, he should be the guy on the far right corner. I can't recall his name. I just remember feeling like pain or agitation.
Are we
And
talking about
that.
Jill?
I think that is
who?
the guy.
Jill?
Jail? His name is Gale or Jail?
No, I think it is like
Gall?
Gell or something.
G-A-L. Hmm. Maybe. I just.
He's standing. He's got his hand on the table. He's the
Yeah.
one
The ginger
because
guy.
he. Let me tell you why I hate him.
Okay, go
I
for it.
couldn't really tell if he was ginger or strawberry blonde or whatnot, but the reason I hate him is because almost from the get go, it's clear that his intentions for making this dictionary are not good. He's clearly he's got the prestige, he's got the degree, but all he's really thinking about is the fame that can come from it, and also how well it's going to sell, basically. And he's
And I
also the
also
one.
I
He
also took
gets all caught up in the politics of like, oh, this uh this university is judging us and we're not up to speed with them. Like he's very focused on the things that shouldn't matter when you're passionate about something.
Go ahead, Train.
I also took note around this scene that specifically him, but most of the Oxford academics were like really focused on trying to control and rein in the English language to what they think is proper,
Mm.
instead of like letting the language evolve how it has naturally throughout history, the history of it. And that's kind of like the whole point of the dictionary, is to catch up and like give access to the public the language that they use every day. And they do a good portrayal of that later on in the film.
I think maybe Booker and I come from a biased place here. I don't know. I would like to hear your opinion, Train, because uh, as someone who's studying language and is trying to pursue writing, I love this kind of material, right? Like I was like, oh, I this is interesting to me. I think Booker could probably agree. Like, yeah, this I like. We were, writing poetry and things like that. You're very specific with your word usage, and you probably have the thesaurus open on a tab at all times, But as someone who isn't particularly one to write, you write code, but it's not quite the same thing. How was this story to you? Was it because for me this was a very engaging aspect, this debate about like what qualifies legitimate language. Was this interesting? Was this portrayed interestingly, or was it
It
kind of the side?
it it was, and you know why? Because a few weeks ago I watched a YouTube video that got recommended to me about how English came about and how like it's conglomerized between all these different kind of languages, between like the Anglo-Saxons and the Germans and the Latin languages, the Romance languages, and how there was like this huge fight over what should be considered proper English and what we need to kick out of the language. There's this whole movement of keeping English purely Anglo-Saxon, keeping any like French or Roman words out. So I thought this aspect of the movie was actually really interesting.
Okay, that's good because I want for viewers that are maybe on the fence or still watching, even if they're like, oh yeah, just give me the spoilers. I think you'd still enjoy even all the spoilers we are given. I think because I watched it up before and rewatching it, I knew what was gonna happen. Right, it held a lot of value even on a rewatch. So I would still recommend it, even if you make it all the way through and you're like, oh yeah, I know what happens. But that truly the acting, specifically in the eyes, I think of Sean Penn. I think his eyes were so telling. Sometimes I just was like, "Fucking, excuse my language," but I was on the verge of, I wanted to give him a hug. I wanted to. It was sad. So
Yeah,
go ahead.
felt on the verge of tears for a lot of that movie. And Sean Penn, you can just see whether any of it comes from his real life, which I really have no idea about, or if he's just really that good of an actor. But everything about him, just his eyes, all of it, his whole aura was just so tortured and in pain. And but not all the time, because when you look at the flashbacks, when you look at him when he's doing his work, even when he's, you know, binding the leg of the guy who got the gate slammed on him, he's so
Oh, he's so focused
calm.
there.
He's
He's
so calm and
yeah.
focused.
Well,
It's a complete contrast to the rest of the time.
since we don't have
And
an
he doesn't.
infinite time for this podcast, I was thinking because it's so important. I think if someone's gonna have a discussion modern day about this film, was how mental health was handled and portrayed throughout this movie. Because I think that's probably one of the more controversial subjects, right? I think someone taking on a role, expressing so much, mental illness is touch and go, right? And I just wanted to see what you guys thought about how it was portrayed. Did you feel it was handled tastefully? Were there any moments where you're like, this is a little over the top, or maybe it crossed the line for you at all?
I thought it was very visceral, and I think that I like that way of portraying it because that's how it is in reality. And as someone who, I have my fair share of mental struggles, but I'm not clinically insane, or I guess insane doesn't really exist anymore. But you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
As a normal viewer, the only way to like get the brevity of what they're going through is with the gore and just like the visceral nature of it.
Interesting, because I think uh I am not quite on the same level as the beloved character Sean Penn plays, but I think at the depths of it, he just couldn't forgive himself, and I think maybe that is very relatable. Booker and I were talking briefly about, like, is it disturbing or is it a bad thing that we saw so much of ourselves in that character? And I was like, I don't know. I think I don't think I was kind of okay. What do you guys think about this idea? But it said at the very end he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, but I feel like some of the troubles that he was going through were just human by nature. Like if you took a life,
Yeah,
serving, it felt so rooted just
I
in.
was I was thinking about that on my car ride home. I think that he might not have actually had schizophrenia. I think that during that time, that was kind of like the go-to de facto diagnosis for people that were in mental asylums.
It depends whether or not, because also he got that horrible treatment, so that could have messed him up more. And then it also
Absolutely,
depends
yeah.
on whether or not those hallucinations and stuff were, because I don't know, it crosses over like PTSD. I'm not like a psychiatrist by any means, but he was seeing stuff, at least the way the movie was portraying it. So if that was true, then I don't know what PTSD would be, but it was interesting because I think the way he portrayed this level of guilt. I think the guilt burdened his soul so it damned him. He felt awful, and I think it was sad because it what I saw when I looked at his character was someone who suffered an episode of PTSD, took the life of a man, and now is weighed down by so much guilt that even when he's told that he's forgiven, it's just it can't take that guilt off of his soul.
Sometimes it makes it feel worse.
Yeah, in this case, we'll get to that too. So, we'll just skip. We'll try to give like some more context. So, Professor Man, is like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I got accepted, and I'm gonna uproot my family. What is he like? 4 kids, 6 kids? A lot of kids. It was a decent amount of kids. I think it might have been 4. Anyway, and we're gonna move, and we're gonna go do this. And the wife is like, you know what? I'm behind you. A little bit on and off, like doesn't seem super confident about wanting to do it, but she's behind him. And this relationship is kind of interesting as it develops throughout the story. Uh, Hold up, I want to read some comments real quick. Pap said that there's something in France that I'm not going to try to say because I would just say it so poorly, but it's equivalent to have an objective to protect the French language. It's an institute. That's very interesting. It's like the prestige.
One, yeah, that reminds me of something I wanted to say about the scholar or whatever that I disliked from Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
It seemed like he wanted the dictionary to be kind of written for people of his caliber and
Yeah.
for other people in universities, whereas, Mr. Murray wanted it to be accessible to everybody and useful to
Yeah.
everybody. And
That's
the
what that's
same
kind of what I was
actually,
trying to get at, but I
yeah,
couldn't get the words out.
That's okay.
but it's that that pure intention was also shared by Dr. Miner, and he makes that clear. Like, no, I can teach you, and then you can teach your children.
Oh,
And,
yes.
and
JV's getting attacked by a ghost, and Hoham thought the asylum doctor was interesting because he did seem, yeah. So it, I don't think this is interesting too because up in the beginning, I thought more so. I didn't really condemn him for anything. It seems like he was just doing what he thought was the best practice, were the best practices for treating patients that were suffering. Right? I really felt that, but then what made me switch, I think, at the very end to he just didn't care and didn't because it wasn't his life was when they were at the very end and it was like, but where would he go? This is his home, right? It was more like for the sake of convenience, just keep him here, kind of thing. That I think is what tilted me towards. I don't know if this guy really is someone. Because I don't know, can you condemn someone for doing what they think is the best medical practices at the time? Because clearly the officer, the beautiful mustache, might I add.
He
Maybe I.
reminded me a lot of that guy from Arcane.
Oh, what, Heimerdinger?
No, 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 no.
Oh.
The
Oh, the cop? Marcus?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh, I think he's a combination of Marcus and Heimerdinger. If Marcus
I
and
just, I
Heimerdinger.
just mustache.
But
Mr.
yeah,
Munson, I think is his name. The name of
Mr.
this
Munson.
beautiful mustache,
Mr.
Mr.
Muncie.
Muncie.
Before we move on from this scene, when he's telling his kids about how they're going to move because he's going to work on this dictionary and they're all very excited, I wrote down on my notes this little moment that I liked because it was subtextual and it was pretty subtle, and I enjoy stuff like that. Was he was stacking up the books and his kids are like, oh, what words are going to be in it? And it's like, is it going to be the words happy? And he's like, yes, there's going to be the word happy in there. Is there going to be the word sad? Yes, there'll be sad. And someone's like, there'll be big. And the kids are asking stupid questions. He's like, yeah, there'll be big and small and all the words. And then his son, so he's stacking up books. The books are all stacked up. His son looks over to him and says, I think it was his own name. It was like Orelson, or something with an O. Oswin, thank you. And he looks at his dad and he goes, is Oswin going to be in there? And his dad kind of stares, the camera lingers for half a second, and then the books tumble over a little bit. And it doesn't actually get answered. And I enjoyed that because without actually coming forward and saying it, it hints at the complexities and the beautifulness of language. You know, is someone's name, the question of, is someone's name a strong enough of a word to be considered like a definable, like, you know, it's a philosophical discussion, and I liked it.
Especially,
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, especially because later on they make the point that, oh well, we can't put his name, we can't credit this guy because he's a murderer, so we can't credit him for helping us, create this dictionary. And his wife kind of says the same thing, like, really, you've been letting this guy, this murderer, help you this whole time, when it's really like, what's in a name? What is really in a name?
Ho-hum, you took the favorite quote. That's fine. That's fine. I wrote that one down. That is indeed a quote that was beautiful. He wrote the quote about, I can fly out of this place on the backs of books. I've gotten to the end of the world on the wings of words. Like, what? Such just like poetry. What the heck? But yeah, so well said, well said. I'm gonna keep us moving because got a bake shift at midnight. It's gonna be fun. Oh, Aqua Mentai?
Welcome.
Welcome. Okay, they say, I wouldn't condemn people for practicing the medical practices of today. I just imagine how people will view chemo in the future. Poison is literally the best treatment we have for cancer right now. If you've seen the film, I think you'd probably, I don't know. I'd be curious to know if you've seen the film.
One thing that I wanted to get to, but we got a little sidetracked, was that I think that superintendent of the asylum had much more sinister intention. I thought that he saw Dr. Miner as a brilliant mind, especially seeing, him in the beginning of the movie save that guard. And he wanted to perform his experiment specifically on him, and he wanted to keep performing his experiment.
Interesting. I can see that now.
In the name of science, but like in a more sinister.
No. Welcome. I'm so glad that you joined. Thank you for adding that. No, I understand. It depends. I think outside of the movie, that is a completely fair point. Inside of the movie, I'm not 100% sure because trying to bring up a good point. I think now that I'm reflecting on it, it kind of seems like they were trying some experimental treatments on him, and having him out in public, they wouldn't be able to do that anymore. But yeah, welcome. I'm glad you joined. We were chatting about a good movie. It's time to chat about a good movie. There's been too many bad stuffs, so let's talk about a good one. I know it's not
Yep.
as fun though. We're not like constantly shitting on it, but hopefully this is still enjoyable.
I wanted to say really quickly that I agree that that superintendent character was super interesting, and for the entire movie, I was trying to dig into his eyes and his psyche, just to discern whether his intentions were good or not. But I think he was a good character because he was reasonable and he was kind of amiable and he was. I think it kind of tapered off. Like I
Yeah,
remember at a
I think
certain
he went
point
a little
he
mad
was.
with it.
Yeah,
At the end there,
and
yeah.
that was when he started talking about all the different parts of the brain, like that whole theory, like this is the happy part of your brain. This is the. I was like, oh god, this
Can
is
I
not good.
ask, do you think, maybe I could be reading too far into it, but do you think at a certain point he kind of got a bit jealous? I feel like there's two moments where I felt this. One, when he was looking in the room when uh, Dr. Miner was talking about how he might be feeling feelings towards, you know, this is minor spoiler, but that's fine. And then he was kind of like peering through the doorway a little bit. In that moment, I couldn't tell what he was feeling. It was very complicated. But then also at the end, closer to the end, when he sees how successful he is with the professor coming to visit and dropping off, you know, the first little portion of the dictionary, I kind of just felt some jealousy from him or something there. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. I think that the very end, I think one of the last shots of this guy kind of sells it. He's looking out the window. I think as Dr. Murray and Dr. Miner. I think this is when they're leaving. I could be wrong, but he's looking out the window and he doesn't look pleased at all. You know, you would think that if you cared a little bit about the guy's well-being, oh, I did everything I could for him, and now he's going. Like, you should crack at least a bit of a smile, but no, he looked very displeased. So I think that for the most part, he was more focused on his experiments and all that.
Okay. I agree. I think. I don't know. I have to watch it like a third time. I think I agree though. I'm gonna keep us pushing just because there's so much. This movie was pretty packed. Like each scene was accomplishing something. I didn't feel like there was any wasted space. Um, except towards the end, I was like, maybe I don't need as much closure. Personally, for me at least, I'm someone who doesn't need a lot of closure in stories, if that makes sense. Like, I don't need to know how it all wraps up. I don't mind ending it on something a bit more cliffhangery, but I think maybe for viewers that want to know what happened, it was a bit more satisfying. But yes, we
Yes,
continue on.
and it's good because it's based off a real story. It's nice to see how they
Yeah,
portray it.
that's true. Okay, so there's I think we're living off of the dinner scene. The dinner scene with all the fancy people. They're like, this is impossible. We must, eradicate and choose only the highest selection of words. And then our professor here gives this idea about sending out mail and asking help from the generic public to find quotes to support through each century, each of the words and their definitions. Passes around like a napkin on the table with ketchup, I think, or some kind of soup. It's a very interesting way to do it. I think it shows his. I liked it because it's as subtle as it is, because it's not said out loud. Like no one's like, "Hey, you just wrote on a freaking napkin." It shows his distance from this prestige kind of arena. Everybody's like, "Hey, look at this." So I think someone at some point holds the napkin like a far away from them, as if it's like a dirty diaper.
I was gonna say that nobody says it, but you can see them kind of
Mm,
judging him for it. Some
yes.
of them, at least.
I like that. You didn't have to have it outwardly spoken, just the acting was able to carry that. So, yeah, they have that idea, and that kind of starts the next little portion of. Yeah, there's the napkin. There it is. They're like, oh, what is this? Ketchup little soup thing. But, so, let's continue on. Oh, beautiful shots of this palace. The set design was pretty nice, and the lighting was pretty good.
Sets were great, yeah.
The napkin is conveniently shaped like a giant envelope.
Yes, very conveniently. But so our professor man gets home because his kids were moved. Actually, do you guys know how long of a time the story takes place over? Because I was kind of confused with the timing of it. Sometimes I couldn't tell if it had been 1 year, a few months, or several years, especially when the wife's getting on his ass for like, everything's destroyed, we've moved everything. I couldn't tell.
I think it was over like a great amount of time.
Okay.
They said it took in the ending blurb. They said it took like 70 something years to complete the entire first.
Yeah, but that was like after.
I think they got like by the end of the movie, they got to like.
Got to like what?
I want to say
8-ish years.
H, the letter H in the dictionary.
Oh,
I don't know the year time.
Oh yeah, it was just a few years, but it was not. It was kind of hard to tell. I think because the kids didn't really seem to grow up too much at all. I don't know, but I could just have missed it.
No, I agree. The timing of things and just the passage of time was not displayed as
I think the one
much
thing.
clarity.
Sorry to cut you off. The one thing that portrayed the passage of time was the length of the beard.
I don't know.
At least Dr. Miner's beard. It seemed to get maybe not necessarily the length, but it kept getting grayer and grayer.
Yeah, I thought that was like more to stress and stuff like that. But I don't know, small things like the fact that it was Christmas helped me know it was passage of time. But then again, like, was it 1 Christmas, 2 Christmases? Like, how many years? I don't know. Because it went from spring, it was like a nice spring day, and then it was cold Christmas, and they were talking about ham. So yeah, he comes home, and the wife's like, don't have any doubts, just, we're here, we've done it, just keep going. Not too much to add, at least of that scene. I have much to say. Just again, adding to their dynamic as a relationship.
Their relationship is great, and I love the way it's displayed.
I think I was kind of not really a huge fan of her, but then at the very end when she gives her little speech, I would say, like, she goes out and says, you'll give me the time to talk because we've given you time, and then makes that little public display of, not affection, but, just, she says her words, and she says them well. I was like, okay, I like this lady.
I think the thing with her is that, and this is kind of something that they don't really talk about in the movie, but if you're paying attention and watching, it's clear that, at the start, at the offset, she's encouraging him. She's all for it. But then as he begins immersing himself in his work, it kind of becomes his life to the point where he's not really spending time with his wife, with his children. And I think that was kind of a running theme for sure. Like, oh, when you come back in, put the fire out. Well, he never came back in. He didn't put the fire. And at the end of the movie, he puts his work down and he goes out and he spends time with his family. So, and I think those were two kind of extremes. Like Dr. Miner at the start, he's all focused on like all the intangible things, all the cerebral things, and Dr. Murray is the complete opposite. He's just totally zoned in, focused on his work to a detriment in some ways. But yeah, I thought that was just really well displayed.
Okay. Sorry, I'm gonna keep moving on just because, got work not too long from now. I'm sad. We get, kind of like a little. We get a lot of voiceover in this movie, which I don't mind. I think the voiceover was well done. And helped add context. I think voiceovers are pretty typical for historical pieces, from my experience at least. So we get like a little montage of like the envelopes going out, and then the just interaction between father and daughter, and digging some dirt for stuff underneath, like minor things, nothing worth note. The next scene that I want to talk about that really hit me was the gate scene that Train had mentioned. So this is a scene in I think they refer to it as asylum, I'm pretty sure, but mental health hospital, where a gate, it gets kind of malfunctions with the chain, and we get a flashback as this gate's falling. Flashback, all of these things are happening, and the gate ends up falling on the leg of one of the workers at the asylum. And
it was kind of hard for me to see. Did the guy get pushed?
Yeah, I can replay it. So it seemed to me that like someone tried to push him out of the way, but didn't. Instead of like impaling him, head through the entire body, it just impaled his leg.
I think he was the one that pushed someone out of the way, because
Was he? Okay, we'll replay it.
One of the people that was there was like, "Oh, please, gate, fall on me, take."
Okay,
it wasn't one of the guards, so I think he kind of pushed that guy out of the way and took the brunt of it.
Let's break it down. No. It's since we all saw something different, let's break it down. It did happen very fast.
It just happened so quickly, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's because how it probably happened in real life, it doesn't happen quickly, I guess, but for movie's sake, maybe they should have tried to convey it better. So they're all walking down, and then before anything actually even happens, I think just from the nature of the environment, we get the first little flashback, and like, look at the difference in his face here. Like, his eyes and his face, they do such a great job here of de-stressing him, like unstressing him. He looks less lost here. That makes sense? I don't know if you could see from the stream, but when he's a general, if that's what he was. Yeah, his face here is very...
That's what I was trying to say. Like, I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier.
Yeah, you did.
When he's focused on his work and what needs to be done, he seems so clear of mind,
So it brings him back flashbacks, and we finally kind of get a sense of like, okay, this is where maybe the majority of the trauma is resulting from. And the sounds here are quite vivid sounds. The sounds are the screeches of men in war. If you've ever watched more war films or anything of the sort, they're pretty scary. They're not any tiny screeches. They're big screeches.
Probably the Civil War, right?
Probably. Yeah. Yes.
He's American. And
yeah.
The late 1800s.
Yes. Okay, so they're walking. I'm gonna try to slow it down when it ends up getting closer. They just have people acting crazy, little fight breaking out, and then they zoom in on this little chain here that's not functioning properly. The gate kind of goes down a little bit, half of the way. And then let me take the copyright wall off and slow it down, because I also was a little confused. So, like, stand clear, get out of the way.
It's hard because they all are wearing the same stuff, pretty much.
Yeah, you could see our man! The beautiful Heimerdinger Marcus man. Which his name was, what was his name again?
Dr. Muncie. Or not Dr. Muncie. Just Muncie.
Mr. Muncie. Mr. Muncie.
Just so many doctors.
He was an officer surgeon in the army? Okay, I thought from his patches he was a general. I'll have to look at that again. Okay, so he's like, oh, stay back, thing's about to fall. And then it goes down. Alright, let's see what happens here. Okay, you're right. So it looks like the officer that got his leg impaled pushed one of the insane people who was trying to get impaled out of the way with his leg, kicked him in time. But as a result of kicking him, his leg, it goes down on his leg. So that's pretty rough. That doesn't look fun. Yeah, that.
Oh, that's a brutal scene, but so seamlessly transitions into those flashbacks that I'm glad they didn't show the flashbacks early because
Hmm.
this is relevant. This is wow.
And it really shows the brevity of his illness.
Yeah, that was the only illness I could really point my finger on, to be honest, that he had was PTSD, and the rest, like you said, just kind of seemed human to me. But
Yeah, I think it's like from my historical understanding of how asylums used to work. There was a once you get in there, you just get started getting labeled with other stuff. It just comes, just like more illness, and
Well,
it's like what?
I'm also pretty sure that PTSD wasn't like well known or researched at this point. It's
Pap
just
just said
no,
oopsie. Pap just said oopsie. Oopsie.
so like
Yes.
they'll throw labels of any kind of illness if they think that it describes what's going on.
Can't leave the leg hanging out there. Oh my goodness. So, yes, they try to pull the gate up and pull back down, and it's causing this man a lot of pain, and it is not working. And then I almost want to say Minnie. Oh no, I'm getting so tired. That's fine. Dr. Minnie.
Dr. Minor,
Minnie.
Sean
he
Penn.
Sean Penn. He goes and he just switches gears, like his something just switches, and he snaps into that focus, and he asks questions. Where's the nearest surgeon? Where's the nearest blacksmith too? And then he puts his belt on him, and like he just is going. You can clearly tell that this is what he's experienced in. And there's a lot. It's gory. It's not. And then they also get the what hinted out earlier with the flashbacks, who he thinks is coming for him, because that's what the insanity plea was based off of. It was like, someone's coming for me. That's why he ended up accidentally shooting that guy in the beginning, the very, very beginning scene we see where he's running down those alleys. He thought that this man that he brandishes, which I think is what he was called, he think
Branded.
branded, yeah, is coming for him. So we finally kind of get answers to that, and it's slowly drip feed to us through like back and forth. And I think flashbacks can be one of those things. We're just talking about tropes in my Discord chat, but I think one of the things that can sometimes be hard to do well. Sometimes flashbacks can just feel a little, I don't know, shoved in there, unnatural, or like you just, like, oh, here, you need to know this about the character in order for it to make sense. But like even with the parallels of the way they were framing the shots, right? Like they had this man sitting up, they sat him up, right? And then they have like the same, almost similar shot here. They did that a bunch, and I thought that was well done.
Very seamless.
Very seamless, yes, yes. So, and I'm not going to show it all because I don't know if YouTube would let me, but Sean Penn, I don't even know how you do this, but he dissociates or something. He just ends up taking off the guy's leg, and they, as a result, get him to help on time, and he doesn't die. He saws it off, like you
Well,
can hear it.
since he was a surgeon in the army, that's probably what he was doing all day.
But it's just so,
Amputated a lot of legs and limbs before. So
I just,
he's probably very used to that.
I don't know. It was very, the sound of the saw going through the bone. They had very realistic sound there.
Well, they had fantastic sound design everywhere throughout the movie. That was like the first thing that I noticed at the very beginning. The sound of just like the footsteps is so. Maybe that's a testament more to your your surround system. But
Yeah, I don't know. It was, the music too was pretty fitting for the overall atmosphere. But yeah, it was. I guess he just did it, and I was like, ooh, yuck. So this is where, to an important, I'd say, respect was built between our Heimerdinger mustache. I can't get that out of my head now. Our mustache man and Sean Penn, because he now trusts him. He's got his respect, and that friendship is critical in how things progress throughout the rest of the story. So it's a moment here between these two characters that is very. Pap, I don't really know. It was the sound of the song that just. Pap is disturbed. And Ho Hum said the shot where they are holding the man to the brand is also a lot like the one when they're forcing him to vomit repeatedly. The treatment I think he agreed to have. Yeah, so we'll get to that, but I mean, clearly he thought he deserved everything, all of the punishments. He wanted to fix himself. He wanted to like purge himself of the sin, which he just felt like he couldn't accomplish no matter what. So yeah, the vomit was pretty rough. Anyway, moving forward, we're cut back and forth between other things, and then we're like, okay, you need help, man, but maybe you don't need that much help because you're pretty good. How can we help you out? Because you helped us out. Oh wait, we get a chance to see one of his little. I'm gonna unmask it real quick. These like little white mannequin heads that he was writing on throughout the film.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like he was trying to do some kind of weird science stuff where it's like, oh, this, by looking at you. Go ahead.
No. See, that's what I think I was trying to get at with like the ice spikes and the holes in his head later on, because they're researching like what different parts of the brain control what emotions, and then they pick at those parts of the brain with ice spikes, and it's supposed to like fix the person's problem.
Ooh, based off
Which
what
is freaking
region?
horrifying.
Oh
Yeah.
no.
So he's researching like what areas of the brain control what different emotions.
Very nice. Anyway, they basically like, thank you for helping. Let's give you some stuffs in return. Kind of. I don't know. How would you go about describing the scene? Booker?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's okay. I
To
can
be
take it
honest.
on. Because we get our interaction between. I think this is one of the first times we get to see him really talk, too. Sean Penn's character. He gets a chance to articulate himself, and he isn't just like having the camera follow him around. We learn more concretely that he's from the United States Army, and then also he's quite wealthy. We learn from this too, from having served.
From
And
his
then, yeah, exactly. So
his
we
Sean pension.
shut the fuck. That was pretty good. That was pretty good. But yeah, so then he's like, okay, let's give. He because of this guilt that he feels, he wants to give some of this to the widow now. That as a result of him accidentally shooting the wrong man. And this our little Heimerdinger fellow is like, I'm gonna take it on personally. I got it. I can do it. Because he feels a sense of. I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think he decided to take it on?
I think it's because he trusted Dr. Miner with the saw and the knife to amputate that guy's leg. So he's taking the personal responsibility of solving any wishes that Dr. Miner has. That's
I
how
kind
I
of.
saw it.
Okay, that's fair. I just kind of saw more as like respect, I guess. Like maybe he saw. He saw, get it? Saw? That was so funny. I don't know, maybe. It was just like he saw Sean Penn do something that he couldn't fathom doing, and then there was just like a respect built there. So he tries to go drop off the money, and she's like not having it. We could clearly tell that she's been drinking and isn't doing too well. And she declines to accept the money. So there's that.
Yeah, at first I thought maybe he might be kind of crushing on her a little bit, but I don't know that that really carried through. And if it did, it became less important than just taking care of the guy and just making sure everything was going smoothly at work, basically.
See, I don't know. I didn't personally see it that way. I I didn't see it that way, but I can see how you saw it that way. I can sense I could sniff it a little bit.
I mean, I'm not saying that that was like the definite vibe. It was just something I kind of picked up at first when he was, especially there for dinner. But over time, I kind of saw, oh, that's
Oh,
what
when
they
he was
actually
there
meant.
for Christmas dinner?
Yeah,
No, I didn't take that way at all. I think that was because of like the gratitude of giving food. She had her kid run after him to come sit and enjoy dinner with them. I
yeah,
think that's like a time difference thing. Like modern day, I could see maybe, but like historically, I think that's less weird. I don't know. So the next thing we get, we flip back to them trying to make the dictionary, and they're freaking losing their minds because they're like, we have this century, but we don't have the 17th or 18th century, and they're just still on the A's. They're unapproved. They're
You could
stuck
so
over.
easily forget that this movie is about the dictionary.
Yeah, right. That's what I was saying earlier, though. It's hard to tell what's the A plot because I don't know. It just feels like it's.
Hello, baby giraffe. Welcome to the street.
Oh, I remember Baby Giraffe. Hey, Baby Giraffe. I hope you're doing well. I hope everyone's doing well. But yeah, so they're arguing over it. And then there's something really cute here that I think we all chuckled at was after the argument, they kind of have this cute way of apologizing. This one fellow hands the other fellow the word for apology, and then he's like, it's accepted. So
yeah,
that's
yeah. That
very
was
nice.
adorable.
Yeah. Um, And then I have a quote here. I don't know where it was, so I'll just say it now. But there was something about recording the evolution of like reality that I really enjoyed. I think that was around here somewhere, because I think they wanted to give up, and Professor Man was like, "No, damn it! This is the." We didn't say damn it, but he's like, "This is more than that. It is more than this. It is." Because he wanted to just admit, I think, the 17th and 18th century first. One of his goons. He's like, no, this is more important than all of that. Oh, here we go. It's about recording the evolution of meaning. This was a good. There's a lot of nice monologues. I felt like in this movie.
Yeah, I thought this was really. I thought the premise was really interesting, just because as somebody who's interested in writing, as I was learning other languages, I thought about how people who make the definitions for these words really need to have good vocabularies and really understand the nuances of the differences of the words they're translating. I worried that, some things get lost in translation with people that maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I I don't know how to fully articulate that thought, but
No, I think you said it as well as words would let you. But actually, after watching this movie, I feel insecure about my words now because they spoke so well. They just had the perfect word for everything, and not just the perfect word. It's such a beautiful list of words that they were using. I'm like, damn, I need to read a dictionary or two. I don't know.
they were very deliberately chosen every word.
Yes, so now I'm just thinking, I think maybe all of us, as we're doing this, just like, our words aren't good enough. Words, not good enough.
Well, see, the way that I saw that was that like these people are pretentious and they're using.
Well, no, not even that. No. I'm gonna hard disagree because even the uh, the
Let
way.
me
Okay, go ahead.
let me clarify. I'm not talking about everyone in the movie. I'm talking specifically about the ox.
Yeah, but I would argue that people I found using the words the most beautifully were not the Oxford people. It was the
Right.
professor and the madman. The way that they spoke to one another was divine. And those, I can never come close to using language as well as they did. On the spot,
Right.
nonetheless.
I'm just saying like the Oxford people, the way that they use their language, it seemed like almost unnecessary and like they're trying to find replacements for words that in spots that didn't need there.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. Whereas the way other people talked felt more authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, interesting.
I took note of like the same thing that I think Dr. Brian or Dr. Brain is like the superintendent guy, and I wrote that he uses words so pretentiously that they kind of become, I don't know, just very negative, almost like weapons. Whereas everybody else is trying to use these words to kind of grow things and learn things and build things. And he's just sitting there making notes about how he's going to do this experimental procedure. It's just so cold and I don't know.
Right,
Aqua
and
asks, oh, go ahead.
those people see the English language as a way to separate themselves from the lower class, in a sense.
I'd say somewhat. I don't want to put them entirely on that evil. I think that Gale or Gale guy, yeah, but I want to say all of them. Were doing it purely for that reason. I think there was a little bit more complicated than that for them. I don't even know if it was necessarily in a mean way
So,
either.
Aquamenti asks, "Are
Yeah,
you
no,
saying
wait, hold up.
English?"
I was about to read that. Hold up, hold up.
Okay.
I got it. Are you saying they're speaking with large vocabularies, emphasizing education, or with charm/wit, emphasizing social skills, or both? And then you can go ahead, give it an answer, Train. What do you think?
I think, from my point of view, it was mostly large vocabulary.
I don't think I entirely agree with that,
That's fair. That's completely fair.
but
I mean, almost everybody had a large vocabulary.
and I can try to say why. I think it's because we don't use the way that language the way that they use language. That from our point of view, it's really hard to judge what would be a baseline normal way of speaking.
I just think it's fair enough for me to make that jump because they are the people that are trying to, make the the book of the English language.
Yeah, but I'm trying to think if I were one of those people if I was constantly surrounded by language, I wouldn't be using it purposefully on a pretentious manner. I would just be doing it passively because that's what my entire life revolves around. So I don't think it's entirely like a whole purposely using large words to emphasize education. I kind of think it's more like a social aspect. I don't know. It's interesting. I'm going to think about it more though. Oh, what do you think? Because you saw it. I'm kind of curious. I think people too often dismiss the use of complicated words as pretentiousness. That's yeah.
For me, it wasn't the words themselves that were pretentious. It was mostly the intentions behind them and the manner in which they were presented. I don't know. Because
The tone,
some of
yeah.
the stuff I write, I've literally been told some of the stuff I write is pretentious. So, you know, it, I'm not judging their vocab necessarily. It's more how they use it.
Yeah, I understand. All right, so we're gonna move on. So skipping forward a little bit, Sean Penn ends up sending a ham and a Christmas dinner, because she won't accept the money. And then they have a nice little dinner, and this is kind of like the foot in the door, I think. And she says she wants to like meet him. I think that might have happened a little bit earlier, but for the sake of simplicity, I'm just gonna squish together. She wants to meet him to see if she'll accept the money. That's her requirement. And she, we get a pretty, it's pretty violent, I would say. There's a scene where she's trying to get money from the guy by offering a sexual favor, and he's like, no, it's too cold, I don't want to do this anymore. And then she gets hit in the face, and it's, it's not easy to watch. It's difficult to see. And yeah, so she's like, okay, maybe I'll accept. Maybe I gotta go visit. And this is kind of where they start to intermingle.
It was really good storytelling for me, showing that she was willing to go to the lowest of low depths of becoming a sex worker before accepting the easy money from the person who killed her husband.
Yeah.
I mean, I also kind of felt like it was wrong the way she was really trying to get in his pants after he said no. I was like, girl, calm
She
down.
she really wanted the money.
Yeah, I know. That's what it showed. But it's like a little uncomfortable.
Absolutely, and I think it's supposed to be uncomfortable.
Yeah. So it's Christmas, and they have this cute little snowball fight, and that made me happy. Someone got hit in the face, so that was adorable. They have the chat. I kind of just want to skip to some of the stuff that really stood out to me. Were there any scenes that I might be passing over that you really want to chat about? I'm skimming through, so if you forget at all, feel free to just take a look at the screen.
Mm-hmm.
No, there wasn't anything for me to note from the PTSD scene up until that quote
Okay.
of the books in the.
So I'll just give like brief main points that move us forward in context. He ends up getting visited by her. She should I skip out? Yeah, we've been skipping all around, so it doesn't matter. The reason why she shows up, we learn later on, is because she wanted to hate him. She wanted to like, what are her words? Something along the lines like, "I wanted to hate you. I wanted to just say no and all that stuff." But she shows up and ends up um, making a very brief visit, very brief. Like she's only stood there for a little bit, but then gives him a book on one of the consecutive visits. And then in this book, very importantly, was one of those mass letters.
No, that's wrong. That's wrong. It was he first got a book as a gift from
Oh, that's
Mr.
the one?
Yeah, and that was the one. The
Oh, okay. And then she gives him, what, 2 books later on?
yeah.
Okay. I was like, how does he get that?
I think the deal with that was that Mr. Muncie was recommending her books because she didn't know how to read, so she would have no idea what to give.
Yeah. Okay, so then the way he found out about the dictionary being made was from the book that Heimerdinger Muncie man
Yeah.
gave to him. That's right. Okay, thank you. And he was like, "Yeah, I need pencils and not pencils. I need ink and paper and books. Give me all the books." So that's kind of where their stories start to intermingle a bit more. But then she does come to visit and gives a book. I didn't have anything in it then, I guess. But so they get closer slowly. I'm not going to go over the details, but the relationship is very interesting because the relationship explores forgiveness and, also the judgment of like, can someone be insane? Like the mental health aspect back then in the 1870s and 1900s compared to today. Oh my gosh, look at this shot. I loved this shot. When Muncie walks in and sees all of the word slips all over the room.
Mm-hmm.
So great.
And it's in such good contrast between when he had like all the room completely littered with all those insane paintings.
Yeah. Okay, so art, the word art. I would love to have this brief discussion. I know it's not like necessarily involved with the movie 100%, but the philosophical discussion of trying to define the word art. Do you want to try to have it? Chat. If you're watching right now, please. I won't judge you. Drop me your definition of art. Don't look up the definition online to see what they have. Just your personal definition of art. Because they got stuck on the word art, and understandably so. Which one? I don't know. I feel like art is hard to have one definition for, and I'm kind of surprised that they were able to actually figure it out. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious what the definition actually is.
Yeah, we'll look it up after. That's part of this game. So once I get most of chat's definition of art and yours definition of art as well and mine, we'll look it up and we'll actually read it. I'm curious. So, how about you, Booker? You want to give it first swing?
Yeah, sure. Well, I don't know if this is gonna be like a succinct definition precisely, But I will say that I think a lot of, from my point of view, I think a lot of things can be art. I think even simple things can be done in a way that could be viewed as art almost. And, this is just me, but I think even the simple ways of like somebody who sweeps things up all the time, somebody who cleans or even does dishes, I think that a lot of it can be art. And the reason for it, I think, is because it's basically anything that you can step into with a flow state where your ego kind of disappears and you're just completely immersed in the art of what you're doing. Uh, that's kind of how I see it, at least.
Okay. Okay. I mean, I really don't think there's gonna be a way to get wrong here. It's gonna be really hard to get a wrong interpretation. How about you, Train?
Uh, I would say that the definition of art is any method of expression of oneself. That's pretty much it.
Expression of oneself. This is very interesting because then it brings up the debate of like, well, if let's just say it wasn't, if you didn't know that stuff, if it was just like an object and just was spawned there, I don't know, it just always had been there. It wasn't expressed by any being necessarily. Could I then approach upon this object and be like, oh, this is art?
Yeah, you're giving it, you're expressing your.
So then, what if there were no life and that object existed? Does it have to have
Then,
someone observing it to be art?
nothing exists then if there's no life. So
Nothing existed if there's no life? What are we saying now? That's just getting a little goofy.
Is there a sound?
Oh my
Similar
goodness.
idea.
Another day, conversation for another day. All right, Chad mostly has their answers, and let's see. Ho hum just said, nope, not doing it. Frigid gave an attempt. Let's see. Personally, I've always defined art as an individual's method of self-expression. Okay, pretty solid. Jamie goes with forms of expression. Pap, we got when an object or a writing go beyond just the utility aspect and go into research of beauty. That's very interesting. I like that one. Aqua said their definition is art is the process of the product of a process. There's two processes there, that's okay. Of imbuing phenomena with meaning. Phenomena meaning observable qualities or signs, as Milton would say. Interesting. Okay. I like all of these, I think.
And how would you describe it, silly?
How I would describe it? Everything and nothing at the same time. Dun dun dun. I don't know.
No, I agree. That's
Oh, you agree? I like how I said that kind of ironically, but kind of not. And then you're like, oh, I get
for
it.
me, in my definition, that's kind of what I was going for. Is that like a lot of things can be art or they cannot be. It's possible to do something that's commonly thought of as art, like music or writing, and you can do it in a way that's totally not. I don't know.
It's interesting,
I don't
Jamie.
know.
Jamie's making the argument for like that life has to exist in order for it to be art. But I don't know. What if it exists post life? Like if somehow we shot a DVD out of Star Wars into space and then like every everybody died and then like for some reason, I don't know, it's the only thing that exists in space is just this DVD of of Star Wars. I don't know what I'm trying to say. We only have a little bit of time left, so I'm gonna keep it moving. I think the scenes I want to jump
Would
to.
you like me? Would you like me to read the definition of art from the Oxford Dictionary?
Oh yeah, go for it.
So, art is defined as the use of the imagination to express ideas or feelings, particularly in painting, drawing, or sculpture.
Wait, so before you, it says uncountable in front of it. Does that mean something? Because I think that might mean it can be used as like an adjective, verb or whatever. Is that what that means?
I'm
It just
not
says uncountable. I wonder what uncountable means. I'm not familiar with seeing that in front of a word. I think that definition of art is pretty outdated, in my opinion.
Do you think
'Cause-
that that's the one that they came up with?
I mean, if it's from the Oxford one, it's got to be close, but maybe the original one that they came up with all those years ago was different. There's no way for me to know.
I
I
would
know
be
that is just the
surprised
first
if they
definition. There's like
haven't done
7. Oh, I guess that's just the first one. But I appreciate all of you guys chiming in on that. We should have that discussion another day. I would love to have that. Just, is this art? And then debate. Just bring on some people from Discord chat. Be like, come on in. Ding, ding, ding. I'm just kidding. All right, so we don't have much time left because I have a big shift soon. So I'm going to skip to some of the scenes that I think hit me the hardest. That being, oh god, the ending scenes are really the scenes that hit me the hardest. So, fuck, I'm like nervous now. I gotta go fast.
We could always have a part 2.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Looks like we're about halfway through, so that wouldn't be totally unwarranted, but this is your call.
Is my call. We'll see. I think the main thing I want to talk about was the relationship now. We'll skip through towards like the end, but the relationship that is built between the madman and the widow. Names, I can't do it. Too tired. Sorry, guys. But the madman and the widow, it really escalates in terms of it turns around slowly, a 180 from she just hates him and he feels so much guilt, and then she slowly comes to see him as a person. He helps her learn how to read and realizes that there is forgiveness to be had, and then he feels like he doesn't deserve it, and blah, blah, blah. It's a very interesting dynamic, and I think it's not something that is exclusive to their relationship. The extremes and the circumstances, yes, it's probably very limited to a few instances of this, but the feeling of not thinking you deserve forgiveness, and then also her shoes of feeling like wrong for having changed your mind on something that you never thought you could have changed your mind on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, those are very primal things that I think a lot of people can relate to.
Well,
At
it's like
least I can relate to the lack of forgiveness, self-forgiveness.
lack of self forgiveness. Yeah, I think I've experienced it too. But then also, with hers, I mean, anybody who's even been through like maybe a simple breakup, right? Could be like a hard breakup. Like, damn, I could never fuck that person and all this like horrible stuff, and then maybe you block them or anything like that. And then time goes by, then you might be like, oh, maybe they're not such a bad person. And like just things in the moment that you probably would have sworn your life and all of your future children's lives on. You're like, nope, this is how I feel now. And then future you feeling guilty for holding yourself to those feelings that you had before, if that makes sense. And then she also has this added layer of having, like this layer of, oh, well, my husband's dead. I feel wrong for having these feelings towards him. So it's very complicated.
One thing I want to mention about the relationship briefly is that the painting he was painting, that was of her, right?
Yeah, I think so. It didn't really look like her, but I think it's just because it's dark in his mind, so that's kind of how it came out.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to mention was that at the start, the painting was pretty dark and morose, and maybe that was just a product of him only just starting the painting. But as their relationship developed and as she, stepped away from the alcohol and, kind of the pain, he started to add more color and brightness to the painting, which I just thought was
Oh,
amazing.
yeah, you're right. There was that little tiny brief moment of him using lighter colors on the painting. I didn't
Hmm.
notice that. Thanks for pointing that out to me. So, the reason he ends up chopping off his dick, which I'd like to fast forward to real quick, was so heartbreaking. So he's teaching her how to write and read, and she writes him a note. The first note I think she writes is "Because of you, I can," and then
Yeah.
the second note she writes is "If love, dot dot dot, then what?" question mark. And I think they share pretty awkward, but like very I can't even find the perfect word for it. A small kiss in the garden. and he kind of spirals from this, especially with the note that she gave with "If love, then what?" And I wrote it down here. He said, "I've killed him again in your heart."
That hit me
Mm-hmm.
hard.
That, like, he then feels guilty again, not this time for taking his life, but then for, as he said it, taking the love that she had for him, and like he feels like he feels so morally fucked. And I can't help but wonder, now that I'm thinking about it, how much the religion aspect plays here, because there was a few mentions of God, and he's like, your God is a demanding God. You know, he demanded a sacrifice, which was his dick. Uh, so, yeah, he cuts it off and just walks out to the guard, like, hey, I need some medical. It's a pretty graphic scene. And I don't have, one. So I was thinking about my male friends watching this movie with me. I'm like, did you guys feel that on a level that I didn't? Like, did it hurt you more than it hurt me?
I tried not to think about it.
Usually it would, yes, but for some reason it did not get.
Okay, okay.
It wasn't this movie. I don't think it was graphically gory, and maybe if
Only
it
when
was a little bit
necessary.
more, yeah, like it walked that line with the sharp thing, and then he's pulling it out, but it doesn't really show it, so it's not sickening. Um, uh,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
is interesting that he he breaks free of his cell just just to tell him like,
like,
hey, I
hey, I need
might
some
need
help.
some help.
Before I forget, because I will forget because time we're running out of, but the thing that really spoke to me personally, because everybody takes something different away from this film, was watching this guy condemn himself so hard for his mistakes made me want to like, I was like, I wanted to give him forgiveness, and then as a result that gave me the ability to look at myself and my mistakes and say maybe I shouldn't be so hard on myself. And I think that for me was the most beautiful thing I took away from this film, was that, like, all around, everybody just needs to, like, just be more kind to themselves and to one another in that regard. I don't know how you guys felt, but I was like, damn, he's too hard on himself. And I don't know about you, Booker, but I'm like, I kind of see some of that in me, and I know you kind of tell me that stuff sometimes. So I
Are you
was like,
kidding me? That's pretty much all of me. That's yeah.
it's like
No,
I,
it's not all of me, but when you're living through it, it feels like that's all of you. And
That's
you
a really
know,
good way to put that.
yeah,
and it when you're doing stuff like work and things that take you out of it, yeah, you kind of forget about it. But then when it comes back, it it it's like all the good and all the work and all that stuff just kind of washes away, left with what you feel like you are, which it's
yeah.
it's
How you feel isn't always what's
magical.
actually going on, and it can cloud the judgment and prevent things from getting better and being good. So I wanted to just say that, because for me, if anybody else is like on the fence of wanting to watch this movie, and if you ever personally struggle with either self-hatred or like finding room to forgive yourself or whatever it is, I think this movie will help give you perspective and maybe allow you to find more room for that. So, oh, yeah, check it out, Aqua. And then you can always feel free to join the Discord server if you're not already in it, and then send me what you think about it. I'd love to read it. And I think Train has to head out. So, Train, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us. And we'll try our best to wrap it up. We might do part two if we don't get to where we want to, but thanks for watching it. And overall, let's do a good old fashioned number rating. The chaotic 0 to 10. What would you give it?
I would give it a solid 8 out of. I
Oh,
think it's an all around good time. Uh, every part of every aspect of the movie has good parts about it, and there's not much to say bad about it other than, like you said, the ending is a bit uh
a little drawn out, but you
yeah.
know. Okay, well, thanks so much for joining, and hope we'll see you around every Saturday night now, guys. That's the
Yeah,
plan
good
if my
talk.
computer doesn't combust anymore. All right, we'll see you
All
around.
right, take care. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Peace.
All right, we got this, Booker. We can do this. We got this. We got
We
this.
got this. Yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Absolutely. Where were
yeah,
we?
Frigid and Aqua. If you end up wanting to watch it, and I hope you do, I do think it's worth your time. Even if you're not huge into historical pieces, which I'm personally not, I still really enjoyed this one. Uh, just shoot me an @ on Discord so I can read what your thoughts are on it. But so yeah, I just wanted to talk about that scene because it it he felt so wrong for having feelings of love towards this girl, this woman, that he chopped his own dick off, and I feel like that was very profound and needed to be mentioned. So
That was the point where sometimes being forgiven is almost worse, you know? 'Cause it's like, oh, you've forgiven me now. You're just, it's almost like all the all the suffering, all the grief, all the regret for the thing you've done. It's like suddenly it's just not a part of you anymore. I don't know. It's
yeah, yeah.
complicated.
It is very complicated. It's so nuanced. I would like if you so Aqua, there's a Discord. We're gonna be doing this every Saturday. No, it's no problem. Train just had to leave, but Aqua will be doing this every Saturday. Booker and I are freaking fanatics about storytelling, and I finally found someone who's like equally as like excited to slurp it up and chat about it. So, uh, we'll be doing Saturday nights at 9 EST for now, unless there's a better time that comes up. And I'll post probably by halfway through the week what movie we'll be doing, just because we gotta feel it out. Yeah, we'll also be doing TV shows too sometimes because Booker is in the middle of watching Arcane, and I know that Arcane's been out for a bit, but I kind of want to get Booker's thoughts when Arcane's all done. And there is a video of someone that thinks Arcane is bad that we might cover once Booker's done because I you should see Booker angry. And I think
That
he'd
sounds
get
exciting.
we should do it. I think we should do it. So that'll
Why
be
do you
coming up.
want me to be angry?
No. Like when you get passionate and you get really heated, you're like, "What? What is this?"
I know what you mean. Yeah.
So we'll be doing that in the
Oh,
future. But so yeah, just the Discord and just yeah, at me if you need to. But so the friendship that forms too throughout this story between the professor and the madman is very beautiful. It's I think they both challenge each other in ways that they needed. Do you know what I mean? Like they play off of each other's strengths, and it's just a beautiful friendship. I liked it. It made me happy to see. It gave me hope.
it is. It is beautiful, but I also kind of like that it wasn't, the main major focus of the whole narrative. Like they don't even meet until I don't know, about halfway through, maybe,
Oh, yeah, I think so. I
maybe
mean,
like
like
a
physically
quarter,
meet. Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
more than a quarter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Pap is freaking out. Yeah, there's a video of someone saying Arcane bad, but also Aqua. I will put the link the second this live stream is over into the description. I just didn't do it because brain's small, but we'll do it. We'll get it. I want to skip to. Oh, this is so hard to watch. Okay. This I'm not gonna show it. I'm just gonna keep it on this frame, and hopefully this makes you uncomfortable because that's what I think it's intended to do. They have this vomit scene. I would call it that maybe the where it's treatment, which I'm like so confused because I personally have never heard of this treatment before. Where they
I hadn't either.
well,
No.
I don't even know what it's called, but they take a picture, then they vomit, make you vomit, shove fingers down your throat, and then take a picture, make you vomit, take a picture, make you vomit. If anybody knows what it's called, please let me know. I'm very curious if this was like a one-time made-up thing just for him, or if this was like a repetitive kind of treatment they did for multiple people.
That's a good question because if this could be like part of the experimental treatment that he was trying to work on,
Maybe.
the superintendent.
But he seemed
Like maybe
focused
this
on the
was part
brain
of the.
parts, so I don't know.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know.
So they use these photos too later on against him. They're gonna try to, but I think there's a lot of people here that had sympathy. It was a hard scene. Just as a heads up, a lot of this is a little bit emotionally weighted. So don't go into it if you're having a rough day.
Yeah, it's a very emotionally charged movie. A lot of the tension comes from the emotionally charged nature of the characters in the situation.
Here, I was able to find the pictures. I also want to know how Sean Penn was able to get such an aloof, but like not a fun, silly aloof, a serious kind of dissociation aloofness in his eyes when he acted this character. It was so brilliantly
Yes.
done because then he would come to very subtly in the eyes when he was talking with either the professor or just anybody he actually cared about. You could see it. He could reconnect. I don't know, man. Now I want to go watch all the movies with Sean Penn in it because I was like, wow, what the this
He's
before we forget, this movie had a budget of 25 million. I don't know if it had much, if at all, marketing. I'll have to look around. I mean, it had its good old trailer and stuff, but this film, I personally hadn't heard of it. The only reason I heard of it was because it was on Netflix a while ago, and it was recommended to me on Netflix. But Booker, did you hear of it before I mentioned it to you?
no, no, I hadn't.
Okay, I'm just curious, chat. Let me know if you've heard of it before the stream, and if you have, where you heard of it, because I'm very curious. It seems like something that just didn't get picked up much at all. So that's why we're doing this stream on this one, because we want to have some good movies, right? Right? Booker and I are like tired
Yeah,
of so many sad, bad movies. So let's cover a good one.
yeah. We can have that discussion another time.
Yeah, we will.
But
We will.
but it's kind of a weird parallel to reality where in the story where they're saying like, oh, when he finally does publish like the first edition or whatever of the dictionary, like the first A to whatever it was, everybody else is celebrating, but then like the asshole scholar is kind of he's not celebrating at all. He's just saying how it's not selling
Yeah.
basically. I don't know. It's kind of interesting that like this movie didn't have a massive budget or whatever. It's not getting tons of attention. It's just weird, a weird synchronicity between the film and reality.
I mean, it didn't happen too long ago, right? Not like terribly long ago.
What, the movie coming out?
No, no, I think what this movie. I have to research it real quick. I don't actually know when this movie came out. Professor and the Madman. 2019. Oh wow!
Yeah,
I thought this would have been way before that. So this wasn't. This was pretty recent.
yeah, yeah.
And the acting cast too is pretty solid. So
Oh my God, the cast is amazing.
you would think with
Kidding
a
me?
cast like this too, like you would get somewhat picked up within media coverage because of who's playing in it, but I don't know.
This this movie feels so humble, and I love the actors for doing it because it's not it doesn't feel self-serving at all. Like it's not showing Mel Gibson as Braveheart or whatever. Like there's not really much glorifying in that way. It's just a very dense character-driven story. You know, I love it for that.
Yeah, it was very character driven. It felt like it was following around the characters and we were experiencing life with them while it happened with them. I don't know. It was very, I'm very, very, very sleepy. So I'm saying very a lot. Whenever I am editing my papers for whatever it is, I just do Control F and I just type in very and I like immediately highlights
Oh,
any very and I do the same thing with
yeah.
so like Control F so just pro writing tip, not pro writing tip, a subtle writing tip. If you ever need it, chat, just get rid of those so's, get rid of those much, get rid of those varies, and it'll make your writing a lot stronger. Let's see. So Hohem didn't know the movie existed. Aqua did not know either. Okay, Hohem said it was delayed from 2017 due to legal arguments. Interesting. Okay. But I think I don't have too much time remaining, and we covered mostly all of it. And if I think of anything else, maybe I'll pop it in on the next stream before. But here he is at the very end. They managed to get him free from this very sad situation he's in, and he's definitely not the same man that he was. Like he's fucked up. You could tell that he's been through too much. And
yeah, the treatments were too much.
it was too much. Too much. Oh, the scene
That's
though.
the thing.
Wait, go ahead.
I was just gonna mention that the doctor, I think at one point he mentions like, oh, it's a very simple treatment. But when you listen to what he's saying, it's a simple treatment, but it's a complicated methodology that he's using with like all the little different parts of the brain and like that crap. Like he's trying to do a simple approach with a very complicated thing, and it just doesn't work. I think it
Very.
screwed him up.
I'm very, very, very. Chat, every time I say very, just like make fun of me so I don't do it anymore. Like bully me out of saying that word. I'd very much appreciate it. Thank you. Oh, I just said it while. Oh, man.
Oh,
That's
don't
okay.
think about it. Just keep
Don't
on
think
trying.
of it. Just keep on trucking. Yes. Now I'm watching my tongue with great precision. We find out, he was released, which is good, but it's kind of a bittersweet ending. At least that's how I felt. I felt bittersweet because he doesn't get to see the girl again, the widow, and
Yeah.
sent back to America. That's part of the deal. Was like pardoned to go back to America. So I don't know. I was kind of sad still, even though I guess we're supposed to be happy that he gets out. I was still pretty sad.
Well, like the whole movie, it was just a very nuanced moment. Like it is very bittersweet, as most of the characters are not fully anything. Like no moment is fully happy or anything. It's so human. I love the way this movie is written.
It is very
It's
human.
nothing is ham-fisted, in my opinion. It's all laced with such nuance and just raw emotion and reality. Ah,
I think raw is a good way to put it too. think I think if I'm going to be a little bit critical of it, the one thing I kind of wanted more of, even though it was a decently length movie as it was, I want maybe it was again back to the critique I had prior about like the time being a little hard for me to understand, like time wise. If I could understand that better, I think I wouldn't have this complaint as well. But the gradation from her hating him to her loving him, I wanted maybe one or two, for me personally, more scenes of that transition because it felt a little stark to me. Maybe
yeah,
I
I
don't
could no,
know.
I could see.
Maybe just because I was struggling with the time passing, right? Because I wasn't sure if it was months or years passing. Because if I was more clear on, oh, it's been years, then I don't think I'd be thrown off as much. But because when I had initially watched it, I had just perceived it as a few months, that made me think it was a little too fast. But I don't know. That
No, I
could be it.
agree to an extent, but I also think that in in special circumstances, sometimes things can change really quickly.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
And when she's really seeing just how tortured he is for one thing, but also everything else where he's trying to work and do all that stuff. I don't know. I think it makes it clear that there's a lot more to him than just the murder, and I think she becomes more sympathetic to just his general condition as she learns more about him. Do I think that would translate immediately into love. Maybe not. Maybe not. But I'm kind of glad. I'm partly glad that it wasn't super dramatized and it kind of just happened.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't want to
Up-
dramatize. It was, I just
Yeah.
think I wanted maybe it one or two more brief, even like 15-second little scenes just to show that they're interacting or talking more or something. But
Yeah, I could agree. I could agree.
okay, okay. Well, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about it. I will probably think of something immediately upon this stream ending and be like, why didn't I fucking say that? There were so many quotes, I think, from this that
Oh
while I was
yeah.
watching, I was like, oh, I just gotta write that down. I wish I wrote more of them down, but go watch it, guys. Just watch it. Go watch it and let me know what you
Yeah.
think.
The only other thing I'll say is that I think even the books used probably are laden with significance. Like
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
it makes me want to have read Paradise Lost and to have read Great Expectations, the book she gives to Dr. Miner,
Hmm.
because I'm sure that even that is just laden with like significance to the narrative itself. Because like you said, there's the religious little aspects, so that definitely ties into Paradise Lost. But all right, let's wrap it up.
Let's wrap it up. Yeah. So I will put the link to the Discord into the video after this so you can join if you're interested and let me know what you think. Watch it, you goobers. I think it's good. Unless you like really aren't into historical pieces, maybe probably avoid it, but still watch it because I told you to. But yeah, thanks for joining, chat. Thank you, Ho Hum, Frigid, I saw you, Pap, I saw you, Baby Giraffe, Aqua, and thanks to anybody that popped in, Jamie, and yeah, I don't know, this is fun. Every Saturday we'll be trying our best get some good old chatting because I miss chatting, and hope you all have a wonderful night/day because you're all from England and the Americas and I don't even know Australia's, what the fun
Oh,
stuff.
that's so cool. I
And
kind of forget how widespread it is.
yeah,
Thank you all so much for being here. It really means a lot.
and Booker, thank you for joining. I look forward to talking with you next time as well.
Oh, are you kidding? I love
Yeah.
this. I'm so happy right now. Thank you for having me and allowing me